Good morning, Glenn Samuel here. Look, just quickly, I want to talk to you about the questions that I'm now seeing asked on social media, specifically Facebook, with the photography groups. Now, these photography groups on Facebook are fantastic, and that's one way you can learn or refine your craft of being a photographer. There's nothing wrong with these groups. I think they're very, very good, and I'm a member of a lot of these groups on social media, such as Facebook. But there's a couple of questions that keep on being asked by people, which obviously they're new to photography. I understand they're new to photography, but I think they're thinking not in the right way. And one of the questions is, can you please show me some photos taken with a Canon 80D? And I'll use Canon for argument's sake, as I'm a Canon fan. Yeah, can you show me some photos taken, or can you show me your photos taken with a Canon 80D? Now, that particular question, I've always said there's no silly or stupid questions regarding photography. There's nothing like that at all. But this particular question is, I think, irrelevant, really, to your learning or to your learning of becoming a better photographer. Now, it doesn't matter what type of camera you use, if you don't know how to use it, and you don't know the three principles of photography, which is light, aperture, and shutter speed, in other words, the exposure triangle, well, it's pointless. You can have a $20,000, $50,000, $40,000, $10,000 camera, but if you don't know those three principles, forget it. Your images won't be probably any good. That might sound harsh, but that's the cold hard facts of this conversation. So to ask somebody to show me photos you've taken with a Canon 80D is irrelevant. It doesn't matter what camera they've used to take that image. It's got nothing to do with the camera. It's got nothing to do with the brand. Now, I'm hearing people already out there saying, oh, but you know, this camera's got this camera's got that. Well, fantastic, it has. I've got cameras that got 50 megapixels. And 50 megapixels is probably overkill for me because I don't blow up poster-sized prints as big as this house. So I don't need a 50 megapixel camera to take a good image. What you have to understand is, and this is aimed at the beginners once again, or people getting involved in photography, the camera is just a tool for you to take the image. The camera is just a tool. That's all it is. It's nothing spectacular. It's just a tool that enables you to take a photo or an image. But to take a good photo or to create a nice image, it's up to you, the person behind the camera, the person that pushes the shutter button. But until you can learn those three aspects of photography, which is aperture, ISO and shutter speed, and work out what light does to your photography and how to capture images using a good composition, well, quite frankly, it doesn't matter what camera or what equipment you have. If you could have a $10,000 camera and lens, but if you don't understand the principles of photography and you don't know what you're doing, that just makes you a person with a very expensive camera. Sorry to say, but it's true. And this is all about trying to steer people new to photography in the right direction. Don't waste your money. You don't have to go out and buy the latest whiz-bang camera from Canon or Nikon or any of these new mirrorless cameras that you see on YouTube, and everyone's using Sony now. So what? It's not going to improve your photography if you buy a Sony instead of buying a Nikon. Or if you buy a Nikon because you don't buy a Canon, that you're going to obtain better photos. It doesn't work like that. Seriously, it doesn't work like that. The camera has got nothing to do with your photography. Sure, once again, there's buttons and controls and settings that could make it possibly easier. But if you don't know how to use it, and you don't know how to use it pertaining to every shot you take, well, it's pointless. You've wasted your money. So asking a question such as, can you show me photos taken with a Canon 80D, quite frankly, is a waste of time. It's a question that really just doesn't have to be answered, really, if you know what you're talking about. Now, the second question that I often get asked, or question I see get asked on these photography groups, is what editing program is best for a newbie involved in photography, or what's the best editing program for a photographer or somebody just getting into photography. Well, I wouldn't even bother with an editing program if you're just starting to get into photography. Adobe charges over $200 a year now for a subscription for Lightroom and Photoshop, $200 a year. Now, Lightroom's fairly easy to use, Photoshop's a little bit more complicated, but if you're just starting to learn how to use your camera and you're starting to learn composition, light and exposure and shutter speed, the last thing you need to be bamboozled by is an editing program. Forget it. Forget the editing programs. I need you to go out and get your camera and start taking photos and practice, practice and practice. Shoot in manual if you want to. Practice with your manual. Practice with your shutter speed or aperture priority. Just get to learn your equipment and learn the basic principles of photography before you go into some sort of editing program. Because if you take an image and you really haven't understood composition or light or shutter speed or ISO settings, and you think, well, I can put that into an editing program and fix it, well, guess what? You're going to be sadly mistaken. You'll be ropeable, actually. So don't do it. Don't inflict that pain on yourself. Forget about editing programs if you've been involved in photography for about 3 or 4 years, yes, start editing, start learning to finish the process off, right? That's what photography is. You just finish the process off in such as a Lightroom or something like that, which is quite feasible to do. But after 3 or 4 years, you should know how to take a good image by using the composition of photography, plus also the light, the ISO, and what that does with your shutter speed. Then you can edit your images. But if you're just starting out, you've only been doing photography or practicing photography for 3, 6, 8 or even 12 months, forget about editing. Try and get it as much right as you can. Try and get it as right as you can inside the camera. Learn photography first before you start editing your images, which you think you can save in an editing program, because I'm sorry to say you won't be able to do that. You might get close, but you won't be able to have the finished result that you see on these other social media sites or even websites. So, to finish up, 1, it's not about the camera, it's about you. 2, forget about editing programs. If you're just starting out in with photography, go out and learn how to create an image first. Understand the principle of photography, which really is light and composition. And then, and only then, would I suggest you look at editing programs once you get back home on your computer. So that's it for another episode of Sniper Photography. I know that subject is quite contentious and it probably will upset a few people, but only telling the truth. I'm trying to save you money. I'm trying to put you in the right, drive you in the right direction. So that's it once again for another episode of Sniper Photography. As I always say, be nice to yourself, family and friends, but most of all, you keep shooting, and bye for now.